Good evening. Good evening. This is the September 6th meeting of the Wareham School Committee. The meeting is being broadcast by WCTV and an audio recording is being made by Mrs. Ruiz. And the first order of business is public comment. Do we have anyone who'd like to come down from the audience to comment? Okay. And good news. Do we have anyone who'd like to share some good news?
Just that we've had a great start to the school year.
Yes?
I would concur. I walked into the middle school on the first day and I thought, no joke, I literally thought the students weren't there. It was so quiet and they were so intent on learning. It was quite remarkable.
Jamie, do you have anything to say about being back to school?
It's pretty good. I like all my classes, and it's good seeing all my friends, so, yeah.
Anyone else? Oh.
I would just like to thank everyone for all their efforts in getting our schools ready, from administrators to custodians to cafeteria staff to our teachers, our paraprofessionals, and our bus drivers. Thank you very much. It was truly like we never left. And also, I would like to put a shout out to our food service department in the high school for their for the decorations, the painting in the cafeteria, and the new furniture. Do you like that? So we'll be having pictures and showing everyone. It makes quite a difference. So a great start.
And Joyce?
I was just going to say that I was happy to attend the first day for all the teachers, and it was really, it was just a room full of excitement. It was really great, so I'm really glad I got to be there and see the first run of the video.
Oh,
it was awesome.
Okay, Jeff?
I just have to add, every time I turn around, someone who is unrelated to the school system is talking about karaoke. What
Bus-
was
Bus
karaoke or
karaoke.
bus?
Bus
I mean,
karaoke. Yeah.
They loved it. They loved it.
Good. We have over 5,000 hits on YouTube and counting. So we're a little nervous for next year because the bar is set so high.
I mean, these were serious business people who thought it was just great.
Yeah.
Maybe you could sell it.
Make some money.
And Marie, I thought she was great too. What a trooper.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. That was good. Okay, now I'm going to hand the meeting over to our superintendent.
Thank you. And I'd like to invite Dr. Stedman to please come down.
Thank you for having me here this evening. It is my honor to bring down Maureen Reber. Maureen, come on down and we're going to talk about you. Maureen announced to me this summer that she was retiring, and it was very, very sad for me because I only knew her for a year, but she's made such an impact. She has served our district for 33 years. Two of her closest friends wanted to say something about her today. Cynthia Bliss said, "Maureen is a woman of great integrity. She has always been a wholehearted advocate for any child she has worked with. She is ready with a smile and warm encouragement. Anyone walking into her classroom is immediately struck by how child-centered it is. Books, posters, inspirational banners, games, everything that can make learning fun and in order to motivate her students. Her patience and warmth isn't just limited to her students, however. Maureen is a wonderful colleague. She's supportive and ready with wisdom and advice and humor. She works tirelessly for the good of her students and for the culture of the school community at large. She has always worked for hours on end and is often the last to leave the building," which is true. "There really aren't adequate words. She's simply a wonderful teacher and woman. How lucky Wareham students and staff are to have benefited from her steady, warm presence over the years. She'll be missed." And with a cross stick created by Val Johnson for every word of your name, Maureen. Beginning with M, Maureen Reber is a woman of integrity. always putting her students' needs before her own. You, under opposition, she stands her ground to do what is right, regardless of the consequences. Requires her students to always reach for the stars, regardless of their academic starting point. Eager to give her colleagues a helping hand, even if she has to stay late to finish her own work. Enthusiasm, passion, and loyalty for her students often lead to several phone calls from her concerned spouse, who's with us tonight. Never taking the easy road because her integrity is what sustains her. Reber is someone you can rely on, enriches the lives of her students, broadens her students' understanding, eager to rescue all creatures, great and small. Reber, the final R, is the epitome of a virtuous woman who we've been so fortunate to meet. God bless her and best of luck in your retirement, Maureen. Thank you for everything you did for Wareham. Thank you very much.
Our next order of business is the approval of the minutes of the meeting of August 23rd. And are there any corrections?
Lori has to make the motion.
Yeah, and Laura, you have to make the motion to accept
Motion to accept.
the minutes.
The minutes.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 500. And next, we're going to have the DECA staff come and talk about presentation of the summer boost data.
Good evening. So we just want to give you a little bit of information about our Summer Boost program. We had several students, I believe we had 24 who attended the summer program. It was a 20-day program. We chose the students based on testing data, the students who seemed the most highest in need, as well as recommendations from their classroom teachers. Our hope was that by putting them in this intensive literacy program, it would help to prepare them for first grade and put them in a way that they would be more successful. We have brought with us Miss Jen Renta and Mrs. Darlene McQuaid. They're the two teachers who taught our Boost program this summer. They did spectacular work, and I think that they are the best candidates to tell you about the program. We also have some data which we'll share with you, but I think what they have to say gives a lot more information than the data actually does. It's pretty amazing. And our first grade teachers have had several comments to us already this year telling us about how their students are, the majority are already at a level 3 or 4, which is where they want them to be, that they're reading their sight words already. So we're seeing that program carry over to first grade. So, Mrs. Chandler, did you want to add anything?
I am bringing up the data as we speak, but school committee, you do have the form of it right there, so please review it. And ladies, if Jennifer, you want to come up, I'm just going to bring up the show, and I'll be right there.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Medeiros, and I am one of the kindergarten teachers at DECAS. And it is my pleasure to be here tonight and share the exciting work that my colleagues and I are working on. Like I say, it really feels like winning the lottery when you see progression happening right in front of you. So virtually working in this town, we see the same thing. Children are coming in really their literacy skills well below where we would like to see them. And so we've had this gap, and it's a rush in trying to fill that gap before first grade. We've worked on countless curriculums, and all that have been pushing us and progressing us forward, but it doesn't seem to do it at the rapid pace that we actually need to close that gap. What's exciting about Boost, like I said, is that we are seeing children move. We're seeing the results within the 26 days before it's up. When I tell you, it is rigorous for both the teachers and the students. Rigorous, it's fast-paced, and there is abundance of information throughout the day. But however, they say it takes 21 days to develop a habit. And we are working on 26 days of deliberate learning, thinking, practice, and every second planned absolutely counts. So, Darlene and I did go through our, is she crazy? These are 4, 5, and 6-year-olds. But when you start to see the results, you start to see how they feel about their learning. It really is magical. Basically, what Carrie Thurston, who is the person that has come up with this plan for us, she's come up with a recipe specifically for our classroom. She'll look at the data and see exactly what she feels she needs to plan for us. So with that being said, she plans out our 26 days. We pull it up on the whiteboard, and it really is not much work for us as far as planning, but implementing is where we really count. So we may click on the first thing, and what she implements first is reading, the read-alouds. We do 3 read-alouds a day. We don't, and even more. If we can get them in, then that's what we do. We're using really rich language books that capture the children, and throughout the summer program, the children absolutely love the books that we've chosen. So as educators, we know what they like, and then she's actually added some really great resources to help us out with that. All whole group on the rug will go to the next, and we'll click on Flash. Flash will consist of things like alphabet song, letters, word families. It's basically the repetition of and using, we can do it several ways. Flashcards, repetition that way, through songs, through music, and movement. And it's all of the skills. That's done 3 times a day. And being an educator, that's never happened before. We've never done it that much. So it is, like I said, it's rigorous, but we're seeing the results doing it as much as we can. The next piece is huge. It's work that we've always done as educators, however, not as deliberate as we're doing it now. And that's the piece that works on memory. It's memory mapping. It is that piece, it's the piece that we do that supports eye tracking, memory mapping. We work on crossing midlines. We work on activities that support left and right brain activity, hand and eye coordination, directions, processing, and this is done every day. So there may be 4 or 5 activities that we do in a row that do support all of these skills that we need to see. So as readers, eye tracking is not taken for granted, that children already know how to do this and processing. So we actually practice these skills on a daily basis. After going through those exercises, the next piece would be PA all the way. And this book has been pretty much, this is our life at this point. PA all the way, it's scripted, and it basically brings us through phonemic awareness, repetition, manipulation of words with audio processing. To see this in action after 10 days is amazing. The first couple of days, some are lost, some don't, they catch up and they catch on quick. And then finally, that last piece in the morning whole group usually ends with a large motor movement. A lot of times it's really fun activities that we click on, but they have to follow the steps that the children are dancing to. So it is, again, it's getting that movement out, but it's promoting brain activity, it's promoting movement and getting that energy out.
I'm going to dismiss myself. I was just putting up the data, and introduce Darlene McQuaid, who was Jen's partner in the Boost program for these 20 days. Hi, I'm Darlene McQuaid. Just to reiterate, I'm really nervous.
Don't be.
Just to follow on with what Jen said, the movement part is really important and really fun because it's teaching children to follow directions, to use visuals, to move their body. It's fun because we're expected to do it with them. So we're expected, the teachers are expected to follow along with them. And let me tell you, I have found out I am not coordinated. It is hard to move your legs this way and your hands this way and jump back and forth. Simultaneously, it's hard, and the kids really think it's fun because we're participating in this program with them. We broke down the centers that we had with the children into 4 groups. So one group is a teacher-led guided reading center where the teacher is definitely giving the children books. They're reading books. They're learning about reading strategies. We're making sure that they're finger tracking. They're tracking sight words. So some of the strategies that we have are like listening lion. So you're always going to listen to what you're reading to make sure it makes sense. So we're teaching them all these different strategies like eagle eyes. Make sure you look at the picture. Maybe the picture is going to help you with what the words are going to be like. So we're teaching them all these strategies that they can use as a tool. So when they're going to read their own books individually, they can use them for their own book. And that's the second one. We give them individual book boxes with about 8 to 10 on-level books so that the children they're on the level that they're at. So some of them, if they're a level A, maybe a picture book with maybe labels. So they're gonna use eagle eye, look at the picture, and then they're gonna know, oh wow, that's cat. That's a cat, this word says cat. So they go, the next center, they go into their own little individual places in the classroom, and they read their own stories to themselves independently. Our third center is language concepts. So we do a lot of auditory skills with them, things that they have to listen. There's like a little game that they use, it's called Chipper Chat. And there's a little game where they put little tokens on the board if they get the correct answer. And this is our little Chipper Chat book. And the teacher just reads to them different things, and then they answer the question, and then they fill up their board with their little tokens. And the last center that we had during the summer was a dictation center. So throughout the whole 20 days, we dictated letter sounds, letter blends, vowel blends, word and sentence writing. So every single day, they would have a touch of that so that they could make that, their own. And then the last thing, and I have to admit, we called Kerry. We said, we can't do this. There is no way that these children are going to be able to illustrate their own book and write about it. We had a few meltdowns the first couple of days, and she says, no, you have to do it. You got to stick to it. You have to do it. So we stuck to it, and after the first week, we saw children that were actually storytelling their own stories and drawing and illustrating their own illustrations. Then about a week later, they're independently, now we're not telling them to do this. We're supporting them, we're giving them suggestions, but they're independently writing words to the pictures that they're drawing. And by the end of the week, by the end of the 20 days, they were actually writing sentences on their own. So it was amazing. I've never seen anything like it in 20 days. They absolutely loved it. One day, we were going to change it up a little bit the last day because we said, we're going to have a little bit of fun. The last day of this program, we're going to do something different. And they were like, what? We're not making stories today? They were all upset that they couldn't do a story making that day. So, they absolutely went from, I can't do this, and we went from, I can't do this, to they loved it. So, I think our scores show improvement and advancement, but there was a lot of other things. We had a little girl who had no interest in reading at all. She, on the retention list, had no interest in reading at all. She didn't really want to do it. She had no interest in it. And I think it was the third week, her mom came up to us and said, you know what? She brought that book that you sent home, and she read it to every single person in our family. And she was so excited because she did it. And she went from somebody who really wasn't interested in any of it to, so maybe her scores didn't go up as high as the rest of them did, but she earned a love for reading. So I think that was one of our achievements that we had made during the summer. We went from a child that had a DR level of 2, went up to a level 6, and read 100 sight words. And I told you about the disappointment about not doing books. So I think the scores will show you that we did, improve it, but there was other things too that did it. The program just does so much for the children.
One of the best things, we were walking in the hallway today, and 2 of the first grade teachers had said to us that our children are reading. They're all readers at their own level.
Mm-hmm.
But to hear that from a first grade teacher, it just really feels great. So with that being said, I believe in this program. We get what we put into things. That's definitely the case. But this is the first time I've been teaching for 19 years that I've seen something this effective.
Do you have any questions? Or?
I have a ton, I'll wait.
I do too. I was going to do things too. Do you want to start?
Sure,
Go at
I
the
can
end,
start.
go.
I mean, being a reading specialist, I certainly think that these are all good best practices, and, it's great, and I really hope that this continues next year, because I've seen years where we do something like this and then it's never followed through the next year. So I'm just curious, what is the PA book there? Who publishes that?
Phonemic awareness.
Yep. So this is a 35-week curriculum of daily phonemic awareness lesson plans. This is by Michael Hegarty, with revisions by Allison Van Hecken. This is Common Core aligned, and this was just recommended by her. And it is, phonemic awareness is phonemic awareness. We've all had curriculum that has had it, and with suggestions. This is just a day-to-day.
More explicit.
More explicit, and I feel like when you're a teacher, sometimes you have so much going on, and you might miss things. You might do it in a certain way, but this kind of hits it in all the different ways that you can possibly manipulate a word.
Right. And then the last question I have is, how many children did you have in your class?
Was it 24?
And so you'd split them up, though? I mean,
We actually
or
had 2
you had them all
rooms.
together?
We actually had 2 rooms, and they worked between the 2 rooms. So the 4 centers, we'd had 2 centers in one room and 2 in the other. So it was a little quieter for them. We had the luxury of having 2 paras, so each center had an adult. We also had some helpers. We had some teenage helpers in the classroom too, that actually, when it was independent reading time, the kids sat down and read with them on the floor. So, and that was nice, because that's a part that you really need to track to make sure they're really doing it.
Right.
And we had those students doing that with us also.
And I think those are also key components. We have that extra support in smaller groups.
Definitely, the extra help is a major plus.
I would think so. Thank you. And
You're
I'm
welcome.
really happy to hear that it went well.
Thank you.
Want to go last? You're going to hear from another reading specialist.
I'm sorry?
You're going to hear from another reading specialist right here.
No. If you want me to go before you, that's your right.
Oh, it doesn't matter. I don't care. What I have to say is, there's nothing like a student learning to read who's had difficulty reading and boosting the confidence and the pride, like the student you were talking about. It's like a millstone around a student's neck when everyone's learning how to read and you're not getting it. And if you don't pick up those skills in the 1st and 2nd grade really well, when 3rd grade becomes the goal of reading isn't to learn how to read anymore, it's to read for content, you just get farther and farther behind. So it does my heart well to see this program. I've been talking to Andrea about the statistics in the spring too, and the progress they've been making. Let me see, there was another question. I know part of what makes progress in the reading area is to have these double blocks or larger blocks of time, which you found. You had a very long block of time
Yes.
and enough adults working with these students.
Right.
How are you going to be able to continue to build upon that in this manner, or what kind of plans do you have going forward in the first grade now?
Well, we're both kindergarten teachers,
I
so.
mean, yeah, okay.
We are going to be
Four.
continuing this as
Mhm.
is it a pilot program? We have 4 classrooms that are going to be starting the fall boost. So,
Can I just say, are those new K programs or
These-
going on?
these are new children coming in.
Okay.
So what, we're going to assess them first, see where they are. We're starting the boost program on September 19th.
Mhm.
And,
It'll be 26 days.
right, and we're going to have additional.
So you're going to have the same format that you had in the
Yes,
summer?
it's basically the same format. The dictation is a little less. Miss Kerry, what's her last name? Thurston. Kerry Thurston, she geared the whole program for the fall to students that are coming in. So we're going to, of course, we're not going to be concentrating on pronouns and what we were doing in the summer. We're concentrating on letter names, syllables, different things like that for them.
they're beginning K,
And the
yeah.
just beginning reading skills that we normally teach, but we're going to be teaching in a more rigorous way to them.
How did you know all students didn't come from our preschools? How did you know what students
We have a lot
you-
of students that do come
Yes,
from our
I
preschool,
understand
yeah.
that too. So how,
Right.
is that how you chose this, chose the group of students to be in the
We didn't
program?
choose the
No,
group
we
of
do a
students.
screening. A spring screening.
Yeah, so right now we have those results of the
Okay.
spring screening, so we know.
Everyone had a chance to be in the pool,
Mhm.
to be chosen?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
that's what I wanted to ask. And then the students who were in this program during the summer, they're in first grade now?
Yes.
So is there anything being done to, are they up to peers, or are they going to have any special programming when they go back, when they're in
What-
first grade,
You can answer
to
that?
continue?
Yeah, sure. All right, I'll slide in here and answer that one.
Our first grade teachers are receiving that training with Carrie Thurston this year. She's built a first grade program for the start of the year. This is more or less along the same term. It has the centers, it has a scripted phonemic piece to it. So they will be continuing that with the first grade students. We have supplied them with the end of the year data, so they're able to now look right away and see where the students ended, and then they can put them into groups. They do have a little bit of added para support for literacy time. We've tried to really push most of our para support into K because we really want to solidify that foundation for them. But they will be continuing it. The training is going through K 1, 2, 3, 4, and I believe 5, but I'd have to check with Andrea. But I know that we're doing all of K through 4.
So the students who started this program now can continue to have the same type of format to build upon what they are already have learned to be
Yes.
successful for them and what they're familiar with?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Thank you.
That's it for now. Just say it's very exciting, and thank you for all that you're doing.
I am very excited. Do you have other questions for us?
I know we have Jeff. Anyone else?
First of all, thank you all for being here and giving up some of your evening. In some ways, this has the potential for being the most important presentation I've heard in over a decade, because literacy in the early years is just critical to future success, reducing dropouts, you name it, it's just critical. So I am grateful for the work that you're doing. I'm also a little surprised, where was this program, for example, a decade ago?
It's funny you say that. A lot of what Carrie has put together is best practices. It's what teachers have been doing all along, but she's built it in a way that there's a nice flow, there's a scope and sequence, it's meaningful. So she's introducing specific pieces at certain times where they're developmentally ready. And she's also pulling in that the mind, the left and the right brain, the tracking. She's pulling in all of those other pieces that we might not always think about and do with regularity that we are doing now. And I really believe that that makes a huge difference, especially with our youngsters. Because like Jen said, we're not born knowing how to read. And so that tracking piece is something that we need to learn, but we don't always specifically teach it. And she's brought it to the forefront and made us realize that you have to teach the skill. So I think it's really making a huge difference with our students that we're doing all of that in a meaningful way.
So there's a tremendous amount of teaching, instruction experience sitting in front of us. 20 years ago, was this program necessary 20 years ago? And if, in other words, were the kids coming into kindergarten that much better prepared 20 years ago than they are today?
I can't speak for our K because I wasn't teaching kindergarten then, but I think
our
Darlene was.
expectations 20 years ago, our expectations were totally different than they are today.
You'll
20
have to
years ago,
elaborate.
a kindergarten student didn't have to read when they left kindergarten. Now they do.
It's like the new first grade.
And whole language. I know we're not supposed to crosstalk, but there was a whole language movement that went on for almost a decade
Right.
that threw everything you're doing now out the window.
So our expectations have risen.
Yes.
Across the board.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kindergarten is now first grade is now second grade. So it moved everything up.
There are implications to that statement. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just
Right,
trying
I
to consider
understand that, but
the
that's-
implications of the
I
expectations
think our
issue.
expectations, our standards that we have for them are higher.
Now, some percentage of the total number of students, the y-axis, are preschool kids, correct?
For this data?
Yes.
No.
Those were kindergarten students going to first grade.
No, that's not what I mean.
Uh.
They went through preschool.
Not all of them,
No, but some of them.
some.
So some of the kids who went through preschool were in the red and the yellow that we're looking at?
What you're looking at is kindergarten at the end of the school year is the first column. The second column is at the end of the summer program.
Okay.
I didn't do the count,
Is
so
that what he's-
I could get that for you and tell you how many of these 20, we ended up with 21 students tested. There were some that withdrew
Yeah,
and some that were
I
absent.
noticed the column
but-
heights are different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For
because
whatever,
there were a couple that were out. yeah.
absenteeism, that sort of thing? Okay.
Yeah.
But what I was getting at is, did kids come through our preschool, or any preschool for that matter, but certainly I'm more concerned about our preschool, come through our preschool and still end up in the red and the yellow at the end of kindergarten?
I would have to go back and verify that, but I would probably say yes to that.
That's startling.
Not-
Well, we have, there are students who attend the program that are high risk when they go in need of services. So they tend to come in lower, and we work with them.
And we
So
wouldn't know if those students are the ones
Yeah, I
that's
don't-
on the data, if she has to look back
I would have
at
to
it.
check. I would have to check each name to see who
I
was in the
understand.
preschool program.
I understand.
But I would imagine, yes.
Um,
I know there were students there that were in the preschool. Whether they're in the red or yellow or green, I'd have to go back and actually look.
And I was a little surprised that some of the green in the first set of columns, the spring columns, some of those students were in the green that were chosen. So
Yes.
they were on grade level.
When we did the testing, the students were a lot lower. At the end of the year, we had to decide prior to our spring testing which students were going to participate. So we talked with the teachers, we looked at the data. Some of the teachers felt that over the summer, students have regression, and they thought that even though they're progressing now because they've been struggling all year, that it would be better for them to attend so we don't have as great a regression for them. So there were a few. I want to say there were 4 students that were recommended based on trying to avoid that summer regression.
But in the end, when they did the spring testing, they were on grade level. And you just
But they
couldn't
were,
have
but they
known
were in a
that.
low, they were in like a low average of the.
I
grade level.
understand,
Right.
I
Yeah.
understand. It's just a question of when the assessment was being made.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, under the decoding section, there is clearly some progress, but you still end up with over a third of the kids at high risk. Did that surprise you?
A little bit, it did.
Why
It
do you
was,
think that
because
was
they
the
were, the decoding is when you're taking, it's that phonemic piece. You're looking at the word, you're breaking it apart, you're able to sound out each sound. When they are reading a book, they have pictures, they have cues, they have all those lovely strategies that they were taught. But when we do the decoding test, it's literally a list of words. There's no cues, there's no strategies. So they solely rely on their ability to identify a letter, a sound, and blend it together. So it is a little more difficult. If you look at the sight words, which is the third column, you can see that big drop. The difference between the sight word and the decoding. A sight word, they're taught with a flashcard to recognize those letters make that sound. So they're not actually trying to sound out and blend. So it's actually a little easier for them at this stage of the game. As they develop as readers, and they're able to glide over a word with their eyes and identify those sounds and put them together, then the decoding, those scores will definitely improve. But that's still probably the most challenging of the skills up there, because they don't have any of their tools.
I understand. So I'm fascinated by what you say, that this is really a better compilation, can't say the word, compilation or whatever, of best practices. It's not that these best practices didn't exist 5-10 years ago, but they weren't compiled in the manner in which that, I guess, that blue book represents.
The
right?
blue book and all of what Kerry's put together, because this is just one piece of it.
Okay, so are there implications for what you did during these 20-some-odd days for how things should be done throughout the school year as well?
Definitely.
Definitely.
So we're looking at right now, we have 4 classrooms that are piloting this. We're calling it the Fall Boost. So they're going to do a 25-day approximately. We're hoping that we can fit it in 25. It might end up extending. But they're going to solely focus on this for the 25 to 30 days possibly, to see if, when at the end we compare the 2 groups, we'll have a group that didn't and one that did. They're still getting, the other group are still getting the literacy, they're getting foundations, they're getting phonemic awareness, they're getting bits and pieces of this, but not at the same level that this piloting group is. So then we'll have a comparison, and we can really sit down and say, it does really work.
Does the implementation of these best practices in this manner require professional development?
They are receiving it, and yes, I do believe that they need it.
So every teacher needs to learn what you guys learned this summer in order to
yes.
effectively implement it.
And they are.
Finally, to Mary's point, given that the data is so significantly positive, what was the funding for this summer boost program?
I'd have to refer that to Andrea or Jane.
Maybe the superintendent?
Or Kim.
We looked at our care program funding. It was grant funded. We also had some money in our PD fund that we used to help fund this program.
Okay. But, so are you optimistic it can be replicated a year from now?
Absolutely. And I just want to echo some of the comments, because one of my joys in the summer, I get to stand out front and welcome kids to summer school and meet the parents and talk to them. The positive comments from the parents bringing their kindergarten children in, it's unbelievable. Children enjoyed coming to school. They look forward to coming to school, and parents were really quite surprised at their child's reaction to coming to school in the summer. The students look forward to it. And I also want to thank the ladies, because on the first day we had 24 little cherubs in the room when we went into lockdown. They were spectacular. Our students thought they didn't even know there was anything going on. And they thought it was just part of the day. And it speaks to their professionalism, so thank you. And it was outstanding. So certainly keeping this going is a very, very high priority. We've sat down and we've looked at staffing at Deacon's. We've made some para hires part-time because it's imperative that our students have the support they need to have the literacy. We're also quite excited to see the results after the Fall Boost program, and we're going to be looking at a number of other factors besides just the reading boost data. We want to see how it continues throughout the year. We want to see if there's carryover. We want to also look at discipline. We also look at attendance, et cetera, to see the positive impact with academics, how it will permeate throughout the school. We also are going to be following with our first grade classes, and especially looking at our students that went through the summer program to track their progress and to make sure that they have that continued upward movement, that they have a nice foundation on. We cannot let that falter. So, I know that Bethany and her administrators have spent a lot of time looking at scheduling, making sure people had the support. And I really am quite excited to watch what's going to happen at Deacon's this year with the reading. So thank you.
Just
very much.
One more quick question. If you had, this represents about 10% of the kindergarten class, mathematically. But it would obviously be a mistake to extrapolate the numbers here because these are, generally speaking, higher kids who are at higher risk with respect to literacy. What would those bars look like, the first set of bars, the spring bars, look like if the entire kindergarten class was in the bar? In other words, what percentages would be of the entire kindergarten class would be at high risk, some risk, on level, et cetera? Any idea?
You mean at the end of this past year?
At the end, before any summer boost?
Before we
just at
started the summer program?
Yeah.
Do you remember the numbers? Because I believe we only had, it was in the 20s, low 20s, students that were not at a level 3 or higher for a DRA.
I'm
So,
sorry, that's Greek to me. What does that mean?
So only about 10% of the kindergartners were not at grade level for their reading assessment
At the end of kindergarten?
at the end of kindergarten.
90% were at grade level or higher?
I would say between 85 and 90%, yes,
That's outstanding.
for their
Okay,
reading
so,
assessment.
and so you're really tackling the remainder with this summer program, mathematically.
We also started the boost
Right.
in March.
Mhm.
So we did do some parts of the
Right.
boost program with students.
This is the same program we've already had a presentation on.
Yes.
Got it.
But it wasn't as intensive. It was like a morning session of it, not like a whole day. So we did do some of it. We did a 25-day. And then we took all those students that needed extra, that really weren't making it, and we put them in another 25-day.
Yeah, and the remarkable thing
That boosted
about,
everyone up so that it was 80%.
and the remarkable thing about that was the impact was from the second set of days. The first set had almost no impact, and I had a long conversation with Dr. Schwam about that. Yes,
But it
okay.
gave us data.
Thank you for reminding me.
It gave us data, though.
Yes, I get it. I
Yeah,
get it.
yeah.
Still, 85, 90%, given what you started with, is a fantastic job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I just have one more question. I think, looking at everything you presented tonight, the difference between what you are teaching also has a very different component in using the brain, what we know about brain research. That's all new in teaching reading, in teaching in general. So that whole mapping and what you're trying to do in those exercises is something very different, and that's a new component that can reach these students. Is that correct? That's the really different portion of it?
Yes.
And then the other thing is teaching tracking. Is that the computerized program where you're working on how do you teach tracking now? I mean, just shortly, you don't have to give me a long, I'm just curious.
We use our interactive boards, so we have like flashcards that will go down.
Yep.
And so it would be like blends, like
Mhm.
GL or, SP,
Yep.
And we do that rapidly, so it's like a
Training,
drill.
yep. I just
We do
was
letters,
wondering
we do
how you
letter
did that
sounds,
part.
we did the
Yeah.
double vowels,
Mhm.
different things like that. We also,
We track visually.
we track visually
Yeah.
with them, so that when we're reading, they're tracking all the words.
But how are they tracking it? Are they looking through a small part? Are they using their finger,
They're
the
using their
colored
fingers, they're
screen?
moving their fingers to every word, and that's where we monitor that.
Right. So there
as we
are
read.
exercises, sorry, excuse me,
Sure.
Diane. There are exercises, there's a specific one that we can click on, and it's called RANRAS, and it's for accuracy, and it's for quickness, and it's eye movement. So you have a series of pictures, and they have to say it as fast
Yeah.
as they can. We have other activities as well, where they have to read the first letter in this line, that line, that line, and that line, and then
Yeah.
the second.
Is
and
that
then
the
the third,
part
and it
that's
gets progressively
computerized, though?
more
now?
difficult.
Okay,
So-
that's what I meant.
So that's all on the
Okay.
board, and
Mhm.
like,
Oh,
it will
on-
have like a dot here, and then they have a dot
Mhm.
here, and they have to
Mhm.
follow that too.
Thank you. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
We'll look forward to hearing more later.
All right, thank you very much.
Our next report is from Mrs. Fay, Director of Student Services report.
I need like 2 seconds to set up, sorry. So hopefully this is just as easy as unplugging things and replugging them in. Find out. Nope. So I can pull it up.
Students, how are they counted? Meaning, they're not considered school students, right?
No, they're protected by federal law.
No, but are they in a subgroup?
Yeah.
What subgroup?
Okay. Thank you guys very much for having me, and this is going to be my first report to the school committee from Student Services Office. Thank you very much. I just want to give a little bit of statistics about where we stand right now with numbers. We currently have 618 students across the district who have an individualized education plan, and 112 students who are on 504 plans. Wareham's average of students identified with disabilities is currently hovering around 27%, which is about 10% more than the state average, which right now in 2016-17 was reported out to DESE at 17.4%. We currently fund 52 out-of-district placements. 6 of those are at non-collaborative Chapter 766 approved schools.
We have 40 at collaborative placements such as Reeds, North River, Pilgrim Area Collaborative, South Shore, South Coast, and Cape Cod Collaborative. And the remaining 6 are at residential placements. 8.4% of our students on IEPs are serviced in out-of-district placements in the district. Couple of new developments with our out-of-district placements. We are a little bit higher than the rest of the state in numbers as far as out-of-district students. But for the 2017-18 school year, we have transitioned back 3 students back into our public schools here in Wareham. And we're currently in transition planning year for an additional 4 students that will be slated to return back to our programs here in Wareham in the 2018-19 school year. 3 students will either graduate or age out of their out-of-district programs this year as well. Couple of new things in student services this year that I'm implementing. All special education, building administrators, and all the team facilitators in all of our buildings are going to be meeting bi-weekly starting this week, tomorrow, to participate in a DESE, Department of Ed created training on a variety of related topics to special education, especially those that we were cited on in our coordinated program review. I'm going to be paying close attention to those and answering to the needs and demands put on us by the state in our corrective action plan. This year in October, a team of 10 of our building admin, principals, and team facilitators are going to be joining me to attend the Special Education South Summit in Randolph. This year it is geared towards principals, looking at a lot of discipline of students with disabilities, which is an area that we could stand some improvement in, and it will be a tremendous resource for us. I think a good learning experience. 11 of us will be going, so we're excited about that. And our mid-cycle review for our coordinated program review is scheduled for the end of September. We're just waiting for a date to be verified from DESE. They should be calling us, I'm hoping, within the next week. So in related service news, we welcome 2 level 2 occupational therapy assistants that are doing their internships here in Wareham. We are also fortunate to have 2 level 1 occupational therapist interns joining us this year. One did her level 2 training last year with us and is returning to do her level 1 with us this year. Our Special Ed Parent Advisory Council, we've lost a few members this year with families either graduating or moving out of the district. The current president is holding elections for officers at this month's meeting at the end of the month, and also voting on bylaws. That meeting will be at the end of September at Wareham Middle School, and we're waiting for the current president of CPAC, to finalize a date and time for us, and that will be posted on the Wareham Public Schools website. This year, we're also looking, working together with CPAC and partnering with them to bring workshops and trainings for parents in the community in the areas of executive functioning, tips for parents, assistive technology, dealing with trauma, and creating collaborative school teams for your children. In addition, the usual annual parent rights seminar, which is given by the Federation, will be coming this year as well. And that's it. Any questions?
Questions?
Hi, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
How do 50, when we look at, for example, breakdown of groups by types of students, for MCAS results as an example, I don't recall seeing something that's labeled 504 students. How do they get included in subgroups, or do they?
So 504 students are technically determined to be general education students. They're not considered special education students. So although they fall under student services, a 504 plan is protected under the Office of Civil Rights and the Americans with Disabilities Act, and an IEP is under IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. So it's not technically special education, it's technically general education with accommodations. It's an accommodation plan, not an individualized education plan.
So it's not a subgroup is the bottom line.
It's not a subgroup as far as MCAS goes. They're not going to separate them out by 504s.
And from the perspective of ability to learn, okay, they could be just as capable as any other student. Is that a fair statement?
Yep, it's simply, a 504 plan is simply an accommodation plan. So it's an accommodation of environment or accommodation to a specific need that the child may have, but it does not involve specialized instruction, and that's the difference.
Got it. Now, I could swear that the last number I heard for our percentage of students with disabilities was in the low 20s, like 23. This seems like a big jump. Kim, is this the highest number you can remember as a percentage?
I would say so, yeah.
Last
I remember, it was like 21%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it was it was always in the low 20s. 10% higher than the state average, which begs the question, you've obviously looked at your budget for this school year. How are you feeling about your ability to do your job and do what's in the best interest of these students with the resources that you have?
You know, I think for this year coming in, the resources that we have are the resources that we have. So we need to be mindful about how we utilize them. I think we've got really good systems in place, we've got really good programming in place, and we've got really good staff in place. And staff not only in teachers, but mental health professionals, people leading our teams, department heads for special education, and the leadership at the buildings. I think it's doable. We have a much larger percentage of social emotional disabilities in Wareham than I've seen in other districts that I've been in, but we do also have a large staff of mental health professionals working for us and consulting with the district, and those are all things that are built into our grants and into our budget already. So they're spread a little thin, but I think that we will continue to look for grant opportunities, continue to look for ways to bring more support to our students.
Now, when you say you're bringing back some students into the school district, is that a positive for our budget?
I always am cautiously optimistic, so I would like to say that any time that we have a student complete graduation requirements or age out, it's always a boost to our budget because it's one less tuition that we have to pay for an out-of-district student. But that being said, that doesn't mean that for those 4 that graduate or age out, 4 more won't move in.
I understand that. But
So yes, it has a positive impact.
at the
Anytime
moment,
that we're,
at the moment, and things
At the moment,
change-
yes,
Okay.
yes.
One of the things we're going to be voting on later tonight is the creation of a sped stabilization account. And the town has committed to putting $200,000 into it, which the school committee, with the approval of the selectmen, can draw from. What I'm hearing from you is you are, I'll use your term, cautiously optimistic that you won't be needing those funds this year. Is that a fair statement?
Again, I'm cautiously optimistic that we will not.
Michael's
Now.
listening.
Michael's laughing at me right now.
Michael doesn't laugh. No. Okay, so far so good, but it's only day 2 or something.
Right now, we're steady.
Okay,
Let's hope that we stay that way.
got it. Okay. It's a staggering number, 27%. That's the number that jumps out at me with respect to the report. How does that 27%, if they were graphed by grade level, how does it look?
It's interesting. You know, I have only been here a month, and in the month that I've been here, I've only been able to be in buildings and really see our programs and our staff in action for the last 2 days. I think that what I've seen is trends towards more, we seem to have more students be identified always, I mean, across the board, across the nation. It's always that 3rd and 4th grade year when they have to start applying the knowledge that they've learned. So it's not just taking the knowledge in, it's now they have to switch over and apply that knowledge. So I think the largest spike that we have in referrals to special education is always going to be either coming in out of early intervention for our more severe populations or when they hit that 3rd, 4th grade. But we have a very high percentage at the middle school right now. And again, it's premature for me to give an opinion on why that is, but I plan on looking into that.
One of the things that crossed my mind in listening to this wonderful presentation on literacy was that some of those kids who were transferred from high or medium or low risk into grade level, we may be actually eliminating IEPs because somehow we figured out how to get them to read, and all of a sudden the IEP is unnecessary. Is that too wishful thinking?
Now you're being cautiously optimistic.
I try to be. Do you share that optimism?
I share that optimism, and I do hope that, I think a big piece is that response to intervention that would keep us from making as many referrals as we have in the past historically, and that's not only in Wareham, but across the state. It's certainly with a strong response to intervention system in place, it cuts down on the amount of referrals and puts more interventions in front of kids and allows students to be more successful without having to make that jump into the more restrictive world of having specialized instruction or smaller group instruction.
So what I'm hearing you to summarize, if that third, fourth grade, those third and fourth grade students, if we can get a decline in the number of IEPs generated at that grade level, it's likely to have a strong ripple effect throughout the rest of the system in future years.
For that specific disability, you have to remember
Yes.
that, yeah, for that specific area of disability category, yes.
Yes.
I'm optimistic about that.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So I'm just curious about the students that you transitioned back in, the 3 students. What grade levels, and was it social emotional or what disability?
So all of those students were transitioned back in by Bev Shea. So I don't have a lot of history on the 3 of them. I know that we have one at the middle school level. I do know that one. We had one at the high school level, and I believe another one that I want to say came back to, Deaconess. So those are the 3.
And how about the 4 you're planning on?
The 4 that we're planning on coming back next year, they're in transition years now. So Bev is still working as out-of-district coordinator. So she's already identified these students. And she's working with the teams here at Wareham as well as the teams at the schools where they're located to make sure that we have strong transition plans in place for them coming back, returning. It's a year-long transition plan so that we're not haphazardly pulling them back and setting them up to not be successful in our programs.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Would anyone else like to speak? Well, I'd like to say I'm impressed, and I've always thought that grade 3 and 4 had curriculum, in any school system across the state had curriculum-induced learning disabilities, I call them, But I know that with the professional development we've had and the training that got put in by Mrs. Shea in the last couple of years, we've been working with the teachers because that good teaching benefits all students and keeps students in the general ed population. So it's good to see that we do have that trend going there. And I would love to see, and I also applaud work, starting a whole year ahead of time because that's how long it takes to have an annual review and get going on for next year. So hopeful that more students can come if they belong here and be schooled in their home school, which is a good place to be if you can be there. So. Anyone else? Okay. I look forward to seeing you every month.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Do you want to speak to the amendment? Okay.
Unfortunately, the state released a late date, and they scheduled the high school MCAS ELA on the day that we had previously approved for an early release, March 29th. So we followed the process, and Dr. Schwam has spoken with the WEA, and so I recommend changing the early release date to Monday, March 12th. And as a result, unfortunately, again, I need to ask for one more vote on the calendar. So you have the calendar in place. It's changing the early release date to March 12th, 2018.
So moved.
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
500.
Thank you.
But this is the last time you get to change it.
It is. Michelle's going to shoot us if it happens again.
Okay, and the approval of meetings for warrant articles for the town meeting Are you going to present those?
Mr. McNeil
Oh,
is going to be
okay,
very
thank you.
happy.
He goes through withdrawal if he doesn't get to present.
Yeah. Good evening. So with town meeting coming up in October, we have a couple of articles for your approval. I'll do the easy one first, which is the McKinney-Vento. So we receive, or the town receives, money from the state for when we transport students who are homeless, and that would go in just into the town's general fund, were it not for this article which we propose each year to ask that the money be put into the transportation revolving account and thereby pay for some of the things which enable that homeless transportation to happen. So we do like to try and spend it on the maintenance of the buses, but often it's just taken up by salaries for homeless transportation. So we've done this now the last couple of years.
Do we vote on this now? Yeah, go ahead.
Just roughly, what's happened to McKinney-Vento over the years in terms of its value to us, meaning this amount of money, and also the work that we're doing, the transportation work that we're doing? Has it been fairly flat?
So it's been we've had less, so we've received less of a reimbursement. That seems to be
As a
going down
percentage?
as a percentage, and we're doing a little less.
So what has the
this
percentage
year,
gone from?
I don't have that off the top of my head. I can find
Roughly.
out. I'd need to check. But I know we're down to 24,000, and it's been much higher.
Wow.
Than that. Yeah, it's been much higher than that in the past.
Suzanne
And
bumped
it's not always. Pardon?
The Suzanne Bump, the state auditor, got all sorts of positive praise for calling this an unfunded mandate and requiring the legislature to reimburse cities and towns for this. I'm not sure, the legislature understands that a declining percentage, what it does to us.
And we are doing
24%.
less.
Wow.
24,000, yeah. And we are doing less as well, which I think obviously makes a difference.
Thank you.
So,
Move
We
approval.
have to move, okay.
yeah.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 500.
Thank you. And then the next article is a Special Education Stabilization Fund, which Mr. Sweat referred to earlier. So as part of the development of the budget for this year, we proposed to the town that we would establish a Special Education Stabilization Fund, the purpose of which would be to act as a reserve in the case of unanticipated or unbudgeted costs. If that did happen, then with the approval of the school committee and of the selectmen, we'd be able to use those funds for those costs. And that can be used for transportation or tuition for special education. And then as part of the budget discussions, the town administrator agreed that he would propose a transfer of $200,000 from free cash into this stabilization fund once it was set up. And the reason for that and why it was part of the budget discussion was that in the past we've had to keep some of our circuit breaker revenue in a balance in order to act as that reserve. So this allowed us to free up some of that money in order to reduce our budget request.
Did the town already vote on this, the selectmen?
They reviewed it yesterday at Selectmen and approved it, subject to your approval.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, and maybe our Director of Student Services would have an opinion on this as well, but what percentage of our student services budget do you think should be in this reserve account? I'm grateful for the town putting $200,000, creating this account. I think it's great. Although I know the process by which we came to this was a circuitous one, but it exists now and it's a buffer, et cetera. But I wonder, should it be a certain percentage of our sped budget? What do you think is the good number? 200,000, I know, is an arbitrary number.
Yeah. So, just my experience
now Melissa's laughing at you.
Yeah. Just my experience of circuit breaker, and so there's two factors which drive this. One is how large the overall out-of-district tuition budget is, and also the likelihood of unanticipated costs arising. So students can, I mean, one student tuition could take up, you know, a significant
Yes,
portion of this.
I understand.
So I would like to see a number where if the most expensive tuition student came into the district, all of a sudden we'd be able to cover it. So I would say,
That's a little bit more than 200.
yeah.
Right.
So I would like to see like maybe double that. That would give me some confidence. That would give me some reassurance that we had a sufficient reserve.
Thank you.
Are there any questions?
Move approval.
Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 500.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
You're going to talk next about the
Yes.
MSBA Minot Project Designer Selection Panel Committee nominee and vote.
So let me start by maybe just giving a short update on where we are with the Minot building process. So we have appointed an owner's project manager and PMA consultants, and we are now in the process of appointing a designer, which is the architect who will do all the design of the building. So once we have these two key positions filled, that's when we really start to see some progress. So we are moving forward quickly with trying to appoint the project designer. Now, unlike the OPM appointment, the owner project management appointment, the appointment of the designer is actually largely overseen and largely run by the MSBA themselves. They set up a designer selection panel which has between 8 and 12 members on it, and we get to send up 3 people to be on that committee, that panel, sorry, the MSBA sets up. And those 3 people are designated by the MSBA. They are the superintendent, the town administrator, and a designee of the school committee, which is why I'm here today to ask for your designee for the school committee.
I was just trying to catch Jeff up on what I learned yesterday, and you just tell me if I'm correct. You just mentioned that it's the choice of the project designer is largely up to the MSBA when you go there. So the 3 people who will be there would be our superintendent and you and one of the school committee members here that are on the building committee. And in order to, if we have a designer that we really want, we have to be very vocal at this meeting because the MSBA can make these choices. Is that correct?
Yes. Well, so I would just say 2 things. One is that we can be vocal, take vocal participants in the discussion, but at this point we have not indicated any preference, nor are we allowed to indicate any preference as to what to be a preference for a designer. But yeah, so we met yesterday, and part of that was so that those 3 people who eventually go will be as informed as possible about, you know, the views of the committee on the applications we've seen. So we looked at, so the OPM did a presentation where they took us through each presentation and reviewed it on different merits, such as how close they are geographically to us, how many registered architects they have, the quality of their submission, and so on.
How many projects they currently have, you know, all that data was compiled.
We have some outstanding people on the committee. Some of them are architects.
Yeah.
Did they have strong views?
They had some views. They took part in the conversation. They didn't necessarily have strong views. I mean, to be honest, it's hard to see just on the submissions that you get, and that's why I think that's why it really helps to have that interview with the designer, to meet them, to talk to them about their proposals.
And when will that occur?
There's 2 meetings. One's just towards the end of September, and then one in the middle of October, and those both happen with the MSBA panel in Boston.
Okay. Your choice.
And the project manager did state that we had strong architectural firms bidding on this, and that they all had their strengths. There wasn't, you know, anyone in there who didn't have,
do the job.
You know, wouldn't have a good outcome, really.
But it has to be it has to be a school committee member, the 3rd person. It can't be an architect
No.
as part of the school building committee.
think technically you could designate somebody who wasn't on the school committee. But I would just say, so there's two parts to it. One is, your designate can consult with the architects on the panel.
Yeah, I understand.
Plus, the MSBA staff the panel with experts. And that's part of the reason they take this on, because they want the expert view. They have architects and engineers on the panel.
I understand.
Yeah.
Are there any questions? So, and it has to be one of us who are already on the building committee.
Yeah,
It's
I mean, it
the
makes the most
knowledge on
sense
it.
that it is. I don't think it has to be, but
Okay.
it would make sense.
Okay.
Do you want me to nominate you?
So I can get some straws for you to
No,
draw if you like.
what's your preference? You're the chair.
I'll do it.
Okay. I'll nominate our chair, Judy Caparicio, to be our representative on this design committee.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 500.
Thank you very much.
And you let me know the time,
Yes, as soon as we know. Thank you.
Are you going to speak to the survey? Okay. I could start because it's almost like it's part of good news here, but I have a press release that's going out, or it's going out, has already gone to the press. But the Wareham School Department's asking local residents if they are interested in taking college credit courses or adult course offerings in a variety of subjects at the in the Wareham Public Schools. And we believe Wareham's a great place to have these programs where people who want to continue their education wouldn't have to go someplace else. And we are letting other people take the survey too, and our programs would be open to them too. These offerings would be in the evenings and possibly on Saturdays. And there are 2 surveys involved. One is for adults interested in taking college credit courses. Respondents are going to be asked what type of courses they want, what time of day is good for them, and if the courses offered would be convenient. And the second survey inquires about the interests of adults to determine what courses and what days would be best, such as art and computers, health, financial planning. We have a long list of possibilities, and we also are asking on that survey if anyone would like to offer a course, what days they could offer it. So it's an interest survey for Wareham and surrounding towns, and the press release is also going to other surrounding towns. So the surveys are going to be on the public Wareham school website and also on the town's website. So, and we have the surveys on there till September 30th. So I hope you'll all let us know your interests, and we're very excited about this. And Madam Superintendent, would you like to speak?
Right. I would just direct people to the Wareham public site, and if you go to the school site, and if you scroll down to district news, it should be on the left-hand side, a little icon. Please vote and take the survey.
Yes.
Will we be partnering with any educational institution in this effort?
That's what we're planning to do. Once we find out the interest, we would partner with a college who would be offering the courses here in Wareham, the entry-level courses.
But we don't know
for
which
college.
partner at this point.
No, I know.
Okay.
I know who we're going to start to speak to.
Okay.
And also, we want to offer other courses that would prepare you for college in case you're not quite ready for that step of taking a college course. If you need a pre-algebra course or a writing course to get you ready to take those courses, that's part of the survey too. Do you need these courses to get you ready to take a college course? So we want to become a partner with a university to offer these courses, but offer them here in Wareham, have the community using our school buildings, and then have the fun courses or the other kind of courses too.
I can imagine there will be some people who have a lot of interest, but the first question they'll want to know is, what's this going to cost?
Well, I know that we'll be giving all that information out once we speak to the people at the university. And then the other courses are just according to, you know, if it runs for 4 weeks, it would cost a certain amount,
I understand. I understand.
Okay.
This is the first step. Okay, Madam Superintendent.
Thank you. Our first PTA elementary meeting will be September 18th. It will be held at the Minot School cafeteria at 6:30. Our day one school enrollment was 2,375 students. That certainly is fluctuating still. We had some enrollments today, and I'll be updating you as we continue to track our enrollment. October 5th at 6:30 will be our first public forum for the year. It will be held at the middle school, and I will be sharing the topic that we'll be having an open discussion about. I certainly encourage the public to come and have a conversation with me, and I know that Lori and Joyce will also be available to be here, as well as all of you are invited to attend on our first public forum. And finally, our payroll, ending on week August 26th in the amount of $114,588.96. Payroll ending week September 2nd in the amount of $808,074.69. I would ask for approval.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. 500.
Thank you. Bill warrant, September 7th, in the amount of $80,269.54, and bill warrant for September 14th in the amount of $30,732.11. I would ask for approval.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 500.
Okay. Our next school committee meeting, Mr. McMillan will be doing a report, as well as Mr. Palladino will be here to give us some updates about the high school and their opening. Thank you very much.
Okay. Next, we have school committee reports, and we have Peter Balzarini has been a member of the team who distributes the NYE scholarship. He's part of the NYE scholarship selection committee, and his term has ended, but he would like to be nominated again. He's been doing a great job, so I ask for a nomination for him to continue to serve on this committee.
I think Peter's a great representative of the town on this committee, and I certainly endorse him. I'll move to do so.
Do I have a second?
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 500. Okay. The next, a change in the school committee calendar. Oh, yeah, we have a change in October for the school committee calendar due to a number of conflicts. The two meetings that were going to be held on October 4th and 18th are changed to have them on October 11th and 25th. And the other business is that the appointment of Joyce Bakioki as the chair of the Policy Review Committee, and that's a change there. Are there any other school committee reports? No. Is there any other business? Do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Second it.
Bye-bye.
What is this, Kim, what's this public forum again?
We're just going to have different topics for people to come and talk to us.